Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's Jennifer Ferguson, owner of Artistic Painting Studio. Okay, so today is something fun. Okay, I'm trying to work on my holiday table, and I decided I was going to make a table runner for our dining room table. And I've decided that I'm going to use my chrysanthemum stamping roller. Okay, because the chrysanthemum. Um, to me, that's something that can be done in red and kind of just felt like holiday to me. And so I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Let's get going and have some fun, okay? So like I said, we had actually been out of this part of our stamping rollers, okay? We had completely sold out of our handles, and we just couldn't sell anymore there for a while. So these are back in, so we're good to go. Okay, we are good around here. Okay, this is a serving tray that I love to use as my paint tray. And I've already lined it with, this is press and seal that's lined with. And whatever colors I'd used before are all dry on here, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to load my paint right over the top. And of course, I'm always grabbing my DIY paint by Debbie's Design Diary. And I'm just going to give it a good shake because I know it was stirred recently. And we're just going to pour some of this out onto the tray, okay? Now this is a brand new roller that hasn't been loaded yet, so I probably put out, I don't know, a couple of ounces, maybe three ounces of paint, not a ton, okay? And DIY is definitely known for being a little thick. You can see how that created a total puddle there, okay? And it did not like flow out and flatten, okay? So it's actually pretty thick. So I want to thin this down a little bit because I know if I thin my paint down just a little bit, it will soak into the roller easier, okay? So for those of you that are not familiar with our system here, the handle has two sets of holes. It has one smaller hole here in the back towards the blue handle itself, and then there's another larger hole towards the top of the bar. And we will load the sponge roller into the back set of holes. And it's always easiest to just make sure that when you put the bottom pin in, okay, set it on some kind of hard surface, and then you can lift up the metal bar and put the pin in the other hole, okay? And that seems to just be the easiest way to load it. And then, yes, the sponge is always loaded into the back of the handle. And then all you have to do is just roll back and forth and load your paint on like you would any other roller, okay? And it's not even a bad idea the first time you're loading a particular color to maybe even just add a little bit of water like I did, because then it's going to soak into that foam, the foam applicator a lot easier, okay? So I'm just even brushing on here a little bit of excess that I couldn't get to, okay? And just making sure that we are loaded up really good, okay? Depending on how many projects you're going to do or how big your surface is, would determine on how much paint I'd load onto the foam applicator. So I know I'm going to do this burlap, which is going to be 3 passes of approximately 5 feet. So that's 15 linear feet. And I know that I'm going to do some other projects with it too. So that was a pretty decent amount of paint to load for that type of project. If I was doing maybe like a curtain panel, I'd probably load even a little bit more product on there, okay, guys? Okay, so same thing, okay, we have to put the pattern roller in, and again, it has the pins on the end. So you'll put it in the bottom one first, and then lift it up so that you can slide the other pin in. And it's pretty easy after you've done it a couple of times. Okay, so I have my foam roller with paint, and I have my pattern all loaded into my handle. So the first thing I always want to do is use some packing paper or newsprint or whatever you have, because you want to go ahead and do what I call like a dry run and get the pattern loaded, okay? And you guys, you don't have to press hard because these blue rollers, I think visual aids are so great, okay, guys? So what I want to tell you is that the red rollers are a harder, more dense rubber, okay? And these don't swish. whereas the blue ones are squishy, okay? They're a lot squishier. And if you press really hard, your paint's not going to just get onto the pattern. It's going to start getting on into the lower sections, and that could possibly even transfer. So especially when you're doing fabric, I feel it's really important just to have a light touch, because if you're really pressing hard, I'll guarantee you that you're going to get paint down into the lower sections of the roller, and that can transfer to whatever you're painting it on, okay? So because I'm letting the roller sit while I'm repositioning everything, I might have to do that again. So I'm gonna leave my paper out here. And then what I'm going to do, I'll just let you guys see, is this is my burlap, okay? And like I said, it's approximately like 2 feet. So let's kind of do a test run. The rollers are approximately 7 inches. So I can get a guide, okay, that I'm probably going to shoot for a little off the edge here. I definitely can get 3 passes, even starting about an inch away from the edge, okay? So I'm just kind of measuring where I was eyeballing before. Okay, so part of my strategy, I'm trying to figure out how many passes, is this burlap is not real flat, okay? It's kind of wrinkled, and I don't want it moving too much. So I was thinking about taping down the edges, and now I know I have enough extra room to do that. So I don't have to worry that I need to get the pattern all the way to the edge. So this is going to just give me, let me see if I can move you guys over here, see what I'm actually doing, okay? So I'm just using some of my blue tape, and I'm just going to tape the edges down a little bit. So as I go to roll, I can roll from one end to the other without having to start and stop. And hopefully my fabric is not going to move too much on me. So that's what I'm just trying to do, is just get it to where it's not, because see how it wants to move? So I'm even probably going to have to put my hand, can you see? I probably have to put my hand on the end, because see, it wants to move a lot. So I'm probably going to have to hold that as I'm rolling. But I figured this would help a little bit to kind of get things set. That way I can do this all by myself without having to have extra hands around. You know, when you do things with the rollers, I'm never looking for perfection, okay? Because perfection is just something that's not even fun to try to achieve, okay? But I'm trying to make this something pretty and something that I'm going to enjoy and be proud of, okay? And like I said, I think one of the most important things is when using these, you guys, just don't press too hard with the blue roller, okay? Now, if I was using the red roller, I could definitely put more pressure on it with no issue. So I'm going to put the camera back down. Like I said, the paint has probably started to dry, okay? So I'm rubbing my finger across this area. Okay, that's all dried out already. So I want to go ahead and do another dry run so that I can make sure it's already going. I'm going to try to stay straight is like my biggest thing. So I'm going to go ahead and start at this end. And I've got a seam that I'm eyeballing, okay? And I'm trying to keep my eye on that, so that will keep me as straight as I possibly can be. And if you guys have worked on burlap, there just doesn't seem to be too much that's straight about burlap. Okay, but there's one full pass, okay? And that came out pretty darn nice. Now, I should have dry run again before I started here, because it definitely is faded right there. And now I'm going to go ahead, and this time, as I'm doing my next pass, okay, I'm trying to keep an eye on the line that the pattern created, okay? So that's what I'm trying to keep my eye on, to keep straight. And if you can see, okay, this is still challenging even with taping it down, because just rolling over it is kind of moving the fabric. Oh, okay. There goes 2 passes. And I left a little bit of a space in between, so I'm going to do the same thing over here. And again, all I'm trying to do is keep straight, okay? Now this is getting a little challenging the further away that I'm getting, okay? But like I said, my eye is following the pattern, so that's where I'm trying to keep my eye on it. Okay. Well, I don't know about you guys, but for something that could be so fabulous as a complete table runner, it took me a whole lot longer to set up and get everything ready versus how long it actually took me to do this, okay? It took me a couple of minutes to actually roll it. And like I said, I didn't worry about exactly how wide this was. I knew it was probably going to be wider than I want it, but that's going to give me the opportunity to fray the edges, cut it to the width I really want, and make it customized to my house. So I'm going to put this back down, and it really is a lovely pattern. And like I said, just using it in the red to me has that feel of a holiday, especially Christmas. So, you know, you guys, that's probably pretty much dry at this point, okay? But you know, my whole idea was to even kind of scrunch it up and use candles and some just like Christmas tree ornaments and probably some greenery, and just make this a pretty like centerpiece and just a partial runner, okay? So you got, I mean, how easy was that, okay? But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to holler out. I talked more than I did, okay? Because it was so quick to do this. I gotta show you guys again. I mean, it definitely took me more time to load the roller and set this up than it did to actually paint this, okay? And that was 15 linear feet. There was plenty of paint on the roller, and all I put on was probably about 2 or 3 ounces of paint. So it goes a long ways. Okay, now I know I'm going to use this red again because like I said, I've got more holiday decor to do. So I will take off the pattern roller, okay, and we're going to take off the sponge applicator, if I can get it out of there. And this I'm going to wrap up in some press and seal, put it in a baggie, a Ziploc baggie, and I'm going to go store it in the fridge. So it will be fine in there for days, okay? And that way, when I'm ready for another project, whether it's a couple days or it's next week, I don't have to rinse that roller out and start all over again, okay? So just kind of save some paint and some time. But as far as cleaning up your pattern roller, you guys, just a little scrubber brush and some running water. Most of the time I never even use soap. So they clean up great. Well, thank you guys for joining me